This is not a spoiler-free review, y'all. We're gonna go deep into this movie.
I ain't slowing down, but I'm losing the crowd. They don't really know what I'm talking about.
What up, Ciphermaniacs? We are back. We're gonna talk about the Spiral movie today. Yeah, I recently watched that, and I'm actually a huge fan of the Saw series. I've seen every single one of them, some of them a couple times. I'm not a big horror movie person, to begin with, but when the killer's like a real person, like that can actually do this shit, I love it, man. You know what I mean? That's my type of horror, and the gore. It's cool, man. What can I say? They do a great job. So the series has been good to me, in my opinion. A little bit too twisty and turny. Sometimes it's hard to keep up with the storyline, but they went ahead and finished off the whole first series. I don't know if you know that, but they finished it off. They did like a little kind of spin-off called Jigsaw. I believe that was in about 2017. I think that came out. I'm gonna double check that. Jigsaw was long dead and gone, and then they made another cop that copycatted the killing and all that. But that was the end of that. They didn't continue that spin-off. They didn't keep it going. It was a one-off. But a few years later, fast forward, I think this movie was supposed to come out maybe 1 or 2 years ago, but you can't say the C word on YouTube. But the pandemic that happened and held this movie back. So finally came out, I believe, earlier this year. It finally hit theaters. Very, very soft opening because wasn't a lot of people running out to the movies to watch it. I don't know how it did domestically. I really don't care how much money a movie makes or not. I know other people on here do that. Go check them out. They're really good at it. Don't have any names off the top of my head, but there are people that break down like the budgets and how much the film made. We're not going to talk about that. We don't care about that. What we care about, is it good? Is the movie good? In my opinion, let's just go ahead and get it out there. Yeah, I think the movie's good. I like it. I like it. What happened is Chris Rock decided to pick it up. I know, right? Chris Rock, comedy legend, big fan of Chris Rock, decided he's going to pick up a horror franchise. That's cool. I'm into it. Let's go. He adds on another one of my favorite actors, maybe my favorite actor, one Mr. Samuel L. Jackson, to play his father in the movie. I thought that was fucking awesome. I'm in. All right, already. You got two heavy hitters in there. Chris Rock playing a serious role, very, very serious role. The rest of the cast, I don't think there's anybody major in there. You might recognize a few people. I know I recognized a couple people. A couple of them I couldn't really place. Some of them I did. Whatever. The story, right? So Chris Rock plays a detective, a homicide detective. Goes by the name of Zeke Banks. All right? Ezekiel Banks. Cool name. I like it. I bet he picked it. I bet he made it up. Zeke is fed up. He's tired. He's pissed off at everybody. Just mad at the world. But for some reason, he still has that Chris Rock humor, and I think that was a really nice touch because to me, it came off like he's fed up with everything, right? Everything pisses him off. He's never in a good mood, so the only way he can cope with these feelings is to joke to himself. He says the joke out loud, but nobody finds it funny. He doesn't even say it funny. He just says some funny shit very casually, just like it's normal, and that's how, in my opinion, that's how this character copes with all the fucked up shit that he sees being a homicide detective in Detroit. I'm sure that shit is crazy. I think he played it well. There were times where he really, I mean, it's Chris Rock. He's not winning any Oscars or anything like that. He did do something different here, and I'm gonna go ahead and give him his props for that, his flowers for that, as they say now. He killed it, man. There were times where I really bought it. There were other times where, he was like screaming and stuff like that, and you get that little Chris Rock, that very unique Chris Rock tone of voice with a little bit of scratch at the end of the throat, and all you can think about is all the funny shit he said in that voice. So it's really hard to disconnect sometimes in the movie, but I mean, facial expressions, physical acting and all that. I think he did great. It was really good. Samuel L. Jackson knocks it out the park like always. I mean, they actually did the trope where, Zeke walks into his house and Samuel Jackson's waiting for him. You know what I mean? I mean, this is probably like the 12th fucking movie that Samuel Jackson has waited for somebody in their living room or at their fucking dining room table or some shit like that, just sitting and waiting in the dark, Why can't I ever come home and find Samuel L. motherfucking Jackson just sitting at my dining room table and waiting for me? You know what I mean? I got a lot of things I'd like to chat about with him. I mean, like I said, he's one of my favorite actors. But anyway, we're gonna stop fucking around and get to the plot. So Zeke is pissed, right? For some reason, in the beginning of the movie, all the other cops hate him. The only person that doesn't hate him is the female captain, Angie, because he called her Angie. Angie, a very, very beautiful Latina actress. I don't, her name escapes me right now, but I think you're gonna see her a lot in the future if you haven't already seen her. I couldn't place her, to be honest, but she did a great job, man. There was obvious a chemistry between the captain and Zeke, and they never really elaborated on it or touched on it, other than they knew each other for a long time, possibly did the academy together, what have you. She got promoted faster than he did, whatever. But they never really touch on it or anything like that, and that kind of bothered me, especially. I'll tell you later when we get towards the end what happens, and then why that didn't play out the way I thought it was going to play out. So what happens is all the cops hate Zeke, and you don't know why yet. They get a little package, just like, actually the opening scene of the movie is one of the most gory fucking traps that I've ever seen in any Saw movie. Homeboy's hanging. He's in a train tunnel, in a subway train tunnel, hanging by his tongue. You know what I mean? And there's like a platform, and he can like walk off the platform and rip his tongue out. Basically, that's what's gonna happen. And the little recording starts playing with I want to play a game, and you use your tongue to, put people in jail with your lies and blah, blah. This guy's obviously a cop. It's kind of just, I don't remember if it was told in the recording or if you find out immediately after, but anyway, he's a cop. And apparently he would lie, false evidence and lie in court and shit like that, and lock motherfuckers up, and that's real grimy. So fuck this guy, right? So he's hanging from his fucking tongue and shit, and the train, the recording says, yo, the train's coming. You can either part from your tongue and live like that, or you can just take the train and die. Honestly, all that could go through my mind is, yeah, this is how I would die. I would just sit there and be like, fuck this. I mean, I use my tongue for a lot of things. You know what I mean? Sexual innuendo aside, I am a hip hop artist. You know what I mean? I'm talking to y'all right now. How the fuck am I do any of that without a tongue? So basically, my life is over. I would just let the train fucking, knock me into, whatever existence happens on after this. I believe I'm going to heaven. Whatever you believe is cool. But anyway, the cop doesn't make it. He even tries. He tries to rip his tongue out, but it just doesn't fucking happen. Like, that's not easy to do. Even just to jump off the shit. Like, it's hard. So he doesn't do it in time. I don't even know if he had enough time to do it. That's not very clear. That's another thing. I think in the previous Saw movies, it was really clear that they either had time to do it in the early stages when it was the original Jigsaw. They had time to, do whatever they had to do to get out. But if they didn't do it in that time, then it was over. Then later on, somebody takes over and uses it kind of, perversely and twists the meaning of the traps and actually makes it impossible for you to get out. And that was part of it. But either way, it was clear that, that's what was happening. And this one, I didn't really get the vibe. Like, is this a straight up punishment or in like, death execution style, or do they really have a chance to better themselves? Not very clear. Maybe he could have just jumped off, I guess. You know what I mean? He could have just jumped off, but damn. Fuck that, right? Anyway, cop ends up dead. Zeke shows up and he's like, yo, this is the body's irrecognizable, but they do trace it because, the man's arm got torn off and he was wearing a Fitbit. Finds out, oh, this cop, did this, that, and the third, and they start connecting it. At the same time, Zeke gets a new partner. And I knew there was something about this partner. I couldn't really put my finger on it right away, but I was like, let's see. You know what I mean? there's a really funny part, the Too Short line, when Chris Rock's telling his partner, "Oh, I'm not, going around calling women bitches to their face all the time. I'm not too short." That shit had me dying. Thought it was hilarious. But anyway, he gets the new partner. He's working the cases. Bodies keep popping up. There's another trap where a guy has his fingers in like Chinese finger traps. Okay. And it's pulling him. He's in a pool that's filling up with water because there's some broken pipes and they're dropping water. If you look close, you see an electric cord that's turned on and the water's just rising to it. So it's timed. That's the time limit right there. The recording plays on the TV. The man's got a big old contraption strapped to his face. And when he bites down, that's what activates the message in the TV screen. And it basically tells him, like, look, I forgot what the hell they said he uses his fingers for that was messed up. But he, it was something about his hands. So they were like, you're going to lose all your fingers or that water's going to fill up and it's going to electrocute you to death. That's your choice. In my opinion, this one, it was very clear he did not have enough time. Because what happens is when he bites down on the contraption that's on his face, it's pulling the Chinese finger traps. So it gets to the point where there's like a bar, like a metal bar, and it traps his arms. So they can't go any further, and the Chinese finger traps keep going. So basically, they're just going to rip off all the motherfucking fingers. One by one, very slowly too. It's not a fast thing. It's pulling very slow by some real heavy chains, so it's gonna be unpleasant, right? The man is biting down, and as long as he holds that bite down, it's pulling. As soon as he lets it go, it stops. So he realizes that early, holds it down because he's like, I'm gonna make it out of here even without my fingers. I don't know. I might just take the electrocution. You got to be there to really know what you're gonna do. I don't know if I can hold it down like that. But anyway, it's pulling him and he's holding it down. It gets to the point where it starts ripping off the fingers, and this is the most graphic shit that I've ever seen in any of these movies. And they do some really graphic shit in the other movies, but now I know what it looks like if someone's fingers get ripped off slowly, just by watching this movie, because I believe that's exactly what the fuck it would look like. I don't know how the hell they got it so accurate. I've never seen it done, but in my mind, that's exactly what it would look like, because this man's fingers start ripping off little by little. And of course, as long as he's biting down, it's going to keep pulling, right? The man starts screaming. So every time he opens his mouth to scream, it stops. And he's running out of time. And he holds it down and it's pulling. He stops, screams. He's running out of time. About, 3 or 4 times this happens. Really fucked up scenario. He doesn't make it. I mean, how the fuck, right? How the fuck you gonna make it? But anyway, he doesn't make it. Bodies are piling up. Actually, there wasn't really a lot of a big body count. I think it was maybe like 3 or 4 traps total, 5, 6 if you count the final 2 that Zeke goes through. But it wasn't really a big body count, to be honest. So they make some more time by showing Chris Rock bonding with his partner, and then they show some backstory about his Zeke Banks' father, Samuel Jackson, that used to be the police captain or the police chief or something. I don't know. He was somebody. He was a big shot, right? And they showed a scene where Zeke was younger. He was like a new cop, uniform cop. Him and Angie, they were both on the come up. And Zeke showed up to a call, like a very dangerous call, and he ended up having to take down a suspect. I think that's what happened. I saw it like a week ago. I just haven't gotten around to doing this video. But something happens where there was like a shootout or something, and Zeke could have been killed. None of the other officers showed up. I think because they had a grudge against him, either because of his father or because he just wasn't a team player with them from the door. Like if one of them did something grimy, he would speak up. He was not a crooked cop by any means, and he hated crooked cops right out of the gate. And I'm sure he felt a little more entitled because his pops was somebody in the force. So he's like, yeah, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do, and I don't give a fuck what these guys think. So that was his attitude, and they didn't like him from the beginning. So he called for backup, and nobody showed up. The guy that was supposed to show up, that was the nearest on the scene, because there was a bunch of cops standing around, and Chris Rock's all pissed, Sam Jackson's all pissed. And when Sam Jackson gets pissed in the movie, it's about to be some shit. And that's exactly what happens. They deliver in spades. This motherfucking like chief of police or whatever the fuck he is finds out that the other cop should have showed up because he was the closest. Yo, he straight up pulls out his motherfucking revolver and starts pistol whipping this other cop in front of all the other cops. Like, this motherfucker ain't give a damn. So they're establishing, like, yo, he'll go all the way for his son. Like, he'll go ham for his son, right? And then they establish that on the reverse side. Like, Zeke Banks, there's a part where somebody says something about his pops in the police station in front of everybody. Like, oh, maybe your pops was dirty or whatever. And Chris Rock hems him up and, like, tries to fight him and shit. They go hard for each other. That's what they're establishing there. So then the final thing, a body gets skinned alive. You know what I mean? It wasn't even a trap or nothing. They just showed whoever, Jigsaw was. They didn't show his face, just skinning the fuck out of this body in a train station or whatever. A murder gets called, and all the cops show up to that murder because they think it's Jigsaw, and they realize, oh shit, this was just a diversion. Well, Zeke realizes, oh shit, this was just a diversion. Oh wait, let me rewind just a little bit. One more thing about Chris Rock's performance that I thought was phenomenal was the part when he was trying to do some information, trying to get some information. He went to like a crack house, and the crack house had like a window where you would look up and you would, shout at the guy or whatever, and he would either let you in or throw down the rock or whatever, right? And Chris Rock, basically, he brought Pookie back. Pookie from Pookie from New Jack City. I think it was his first role actually. He played a crackhead, and he played the hell out of that crackhead, and it's legendary to this day. It was pretty fucking epic of a role for him. And he kind of brought it back. He did some real funny crackhead shit while he was, in that crackhead mode, and I know that was a nod to his first role, Pookie. I'm 100% positive. But anyway, back to what's happening now. It was a diversion, so Zeke figures it out and was like, yo, we all got to get back to the police station. They get back to the police station and they find a tape. They realize that Angie has been snatched up by Jigsaw and she's in a trap. And the trap that she's in, she was on a bed, right? And she had like a wax paper on her face, and basically there was like a razor blade right behind her neck, right where her spine would be. And the point was, she only had a certain amount of time to sever her spine because apparently she should have stood up for people. Because when Samuel Jackson was in charge, apparently they started this like operation. All the cops did, where they were just cracking down on crime, but they were cracking down on crime so hard that they were actually being criminals themselves. Like they were murdering people that witnessed them doing fucked up shit, and it was really bad. Now that I think about it, I remember that detail now. Everyone hated Chris. Everyone hates Chris. Zeke, everyone hated Chris because he ratted out on another cop, and the cop did his time. It was like, I don't know, 8 years or something that he got because he shot a witness. And Angie should have stood up for people is what the point was. If she didn't sever herself, hot wax was going to pour down on her face and just melt her fucking face off. Like, there was nothing she was going to be able to do about it except just be a paraplegic. No, I'm sorry, quadriplegic for the rest of her life. She wouldn't have been able to move her because it would have been severed at the neck, not at the, you know what I mean? So she would have been just a head. So yeah, I probably would have took the wax to the face there too, man. None of these traps are fair. None of these traps are even close to remotely being fair. Like, they make you choose between ending your life or ending your life. So, what the fuck are you gonna do? Point is, she doesn't make it. And then Chris Rock makes it down to the basement and sees Angie, and then he starts like kissing her dead body, like, that with melted wax all over her face. And it's a little weird, I'm not gonna lie. Because they really tried to show us how much he cared. But I think you had plenty of time to do that earlier in the movie. When I was saying I didn't really feel I knew there was something there, but I never felt the connection. Like, what is it? Did they used to date? Are they dating now undercover? Like, none of that was explained. And then he's like making out with her dead body. Okay, I'll roll with it. At this point, I'm invested. The movie's got like 20 minutes left, so let's go. I think he gets like an address or some shit like that. But he ends up going to a place, and he gets attacked. He gets like knocked out or whatever. And when he wakes up, It brings it all the way back to the very first Saw movie when Homeboy was like in the bathroom and he had like a chain on his leg and there was a saw there. So the whole point was he was supposed to saw off his leg to get away. Like you couldn't use the saw to do the chain. But for some reason in this one, you could use the saw on the chain. So Chris Rock wakes up and he's got the saw. There's no game in that room. He saws off, the chain. But I think it was on his arm or his leg. I don't remember. But anyway, he saws it off and then he goes through the thing. And then you find the cop that Chris Rock witnessed murder a witness. Basically, he basically shot the guy right at his front door with Chris Rock standing right there when they were partners and they were in uniform and all that during that operation that Samuel Jackson had his crooked cops under. That guy, he was one of the suspects. Like you think, oh, maybe this guy has a grudge against Chris Rock and has a grudge against cops, so he's going after everybody. Nope. Because he finds that guy in a trap. And the trap that he's in, there's no way to get out. I don't care what anybody says. There was no way he was getting out of it. This one was straight up murder. It wasn't even a test. I mean, they're all murder, but this one there was no test. It was just, I guess it was a test for Zeke because he was supposed to either help him out or let him die. That was his choice. There was no consequence for Zeke whatsoever other than let him die or let him live, right? Zeke, even though he hated this fucking guy, even though he put him in jail, even though he caused him so much trouble in his career and all that, Zeke's a good man at the end of the day. Even if he's pissed off at everybody, he's still a good guy. He tries to save him, but there's like a big tube, and it's like one of those machines that basically like crush up glass, and then it stuck it into like this vacuum, and then the vacuum had like an exit that was pointing directly at this crooked cop, right? And he was just strapped up. Nothing he could do. So Chris Rock starts trying to get him out, but there was like waves of crushed up glass being shot directly at this man's back. So Chris Rock's in front of him trying to save him. He's catching glass shards, so he goes and hides for a second. Then it stops. Okay, bet he's got some time. He goes back and he tries to get him out again. The thing starts up again, starts throwing some glass. He gets to the point where he can't help anymore, so he basically stops. By the time he waits until it stops and then starts up again, while it stopped, he goes back and Homeboy's dead. So at this point, it's like, all right, there's no point. He moves on. He ends up finding his father, Samuel Jackson, man. He ends up finding that dude like hanging by his arms and his legs, right? And he's got a bunch of needles in his veins. It's bleeding him out. It's draining him dry. I don't remember exactly what happens there. Maybe you can tell me in the comments if you've seen it recently and you remember. The killer shows up. The real Jigsaw shows up. Because now you know that it's not Samuel Jackson that's Jigsaw because he's currently bleeding out. He was another suspect. And you know it's not Chris Rock at this point because you think maybe it's him fucking with everybody. That thought, I wouldn't say it was in my mind the whole time, but it did cross through my brain. The one person that I said early on in the movie, I said, man, I'm going to watch this guy because it could be this guy. I think it might be this guy. His partner shows up, and his partner is Jigsaw, is the new Jigsaw. And then it cuts to the flash of when that crooked cop shot the witness in front of Chris Rock at the man's door. It showed a young version, like a kid. He was like 8 years old or something like that, watching that shit. And he saw Zeke Banks and he saw the crooked cop shoot his father and then, all of that. So that fucked him up, I guess, gave him this crazy vendetta. He decided to become a cop and then, he was real smart with engineering and all this crazy shit. So he set up this whole thing. He's been pulling the strings the whole time and he's got it set up for him to get away, obviously. And then Chris Rock's final test, I think, is, okay, he's like, you can chase me. That's what the new Jigsaw says. That's what his partner tells Zeke. He's like, you can chase me or you can save your father. He gets his father down. He gets his father down from the bleeding out thing, and his father tells him, go get that motherfucker. Zeke chases the dude, and they're fighting in the elevator. That's where you can see where Samuel Jackson is at. The strings that are on Sam Jackson when he's laying down, they start pulling him up, and they make him look like a puppet. So he's hanging, and the cops are busting in the room. They did give a clue earlier in the Jigsaw video where there was a little Jigsaw puppet that walks up to the camera and goes like that and like pulls out like a little gun on the camera. So that was like a little clue, but you didn't know. You thought it was just some weird shit or some creepy shit that Jigsaw was doing. So while Zeke is fighting Jigsaw, the SWAT busts in, and when the SWAT busts in and Samuel Jackson's hanging like that, all of a sudden his arms come up because he's like a puppet, remember? And he has fucking 2 guns strapped to his fucking hands. The guns go off and they bust at the SWAT team. And what happens when we shoot at the cops? Wait, what happens when a black man shoots at the cops? They get shot the fuck up, and that's what happens to Samuel Jackson. All the SWAT team just start blasting him up right in front of Zeke. While Zeke is watching this, Jigsaw gets away, and straight up, that's how the movie ends. Basically, just like that. Now, I like the movie. Obviously, I talked well about it, but there were some things where I thought it was pretty fucking stupid. Like the ending. I understand the whole crooked cop point that he was trying to make. I definitely understand the cops shoot first and ask questions later mentality. Like they didn't even bother they didn't even realize that was the chief of police. They just saw a black man with 2 guns. They didn't even pay attention to the fact that he was strung up like a goddamn puppet. They just fucking blasted him. So I get that, right? But show me just a little something at the end. I mean, they didn't even do like the original Jigsaw did. They might have, but it was so quick and just abrupt that I didn't even get the impact from it. You know, when Jigsaw's like game over and then boom and closes a door or something and it goes to blackness and then the credits roll. I didn't even get that feeling from it, but overall, the movie was fucking awesome. To be honest, I think you should definitely see it, support it, because I wouldn't mind seeing more, man. Whether it's Chris Rock or not, I wouldn't mind seeing some more Jigsaw, Saw, whatever. Let's go to Saw 17, Saw 23. I don't give a fuck, man. Let's keep this shit going. How many innovative and genius fucking traps can y'all come up with? Show me. Once again, Cipherman out. Join me on the next one. Make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, do all the YouTube things, and check out my link tree. I'll leave the link in the description section and all that, and basically you can follow me everywhere from there. So let's go, Cyphermaniacs. One love. Peace.
Fuck with me, I accept the negative with the pause. I can use the publicity, either way it ain't no loss. I can give you props and show you love cause you're down for the cause, or make it so the medics didn't bring enough gauze for all the bleeding. You and me competing, call it a feeding and be easy. I don't like to be disturbed when I'm eating. Your commander seeing my fleet while his is fleeing. Why you leaving? I'm just getting started, now the odds are even. I believe in me, disagreeing is leading to a beating. Reading too much into your hype, retreating. I'm gonna need a body bag. 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 I'm gonna need a lot of plastic wrap, masking tape, and a basket. What else is it supposed to put this lotion in? You asked if it sounds